transmigrated into a novel as the wicked female antagonist, but I am really a coward. Afraid of retribution, I resort to sweet talking and manipulation for every task. When forcing the male lead to help me with cleaning duty, I gaze at him adoringly. Oh, Asher, you're so strong. You know I simply can't manage without you. Compelling him to fetch my lunch, I turn on the waterworks. You're so kind, Asher. You'll always take good care of me, won't you? Slapping and humiliating him, I choke back tears. Why were you late? Don't you know how worried I was? When the system finally comes online, I'm quick to boast. I've done well with my tasks, haven't I? Look how badly I've bullied the male lead. The system, observing the male lead kneeling to tie my shoelaces, falls silent. Bullied? You call that willing devotion bullying? Bloody hell, you've got him wrapped around your finger. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. At the school gate, the system impatiently urged me. Go on! You've been hiding for half an hour now. Get on with your task. I had been transported into the body of an early villainess in a male-oriented novel. The plot began with me slapping the male lead for being late, angrily humiliating him in public. But I'm so scared, I whimpered inwardly. Won't he seek revenge? I couldn't help but be afraid. Asher Darnley stood at 6 feet 3 inches, with sharp features. His lips were pressed into a thin line, giving him an intimidating air. He was destined to become a cold, brooding business tycoon in the future. For now, though, he was still in his poorest high school days. He regularly worked at the docks to earn his tuition fees. His muscular build made him look quite menacing. What if he ambushes me later for revenge? I could be beaten to death, I thought, nearly in tears. If I remembered correctly, Asher was extremely vindictive and petty. The system rolled its eyes and scolded me. What are you afraid of? The male lead is lying low now. Any revenge won't happen for years. Hurry up! Don't you want to complete the task and go home? You're such a coward. I was berated harshly, but I still didn't trust the system's words. It wasn't the one getting slapped, of course it could talk big. I grumbled a few retorts in my mind. Mustering up my courage, I approached Asher. I closed my eyes, steeled my nerves, and swung my hand. Coming so late, are you doing this on purpose? Don't you know? Before I could finish my accusation, I suddenly felt something was off about the sensation under my hand. The system was already roaring in anger. Can't you stand on your tiptoes? How did you end up slapping his neck? Who would have thought my height would be the downfall of this task? The slap that was meant for his face landed directly on the male lead's Adam's apple instead. Even worse, my manicured nails scraped across his skin, leaving a small cut. Asher's icy gaze swept over me. My hand trembled as I watched his Adam's apple bob. I was terrified, fearing he might hit me back just as hard to settle the score. My nose stung with unshed tears, and I changed tack mid-sentence, choking out. Don't you know how scared I was? Before Asher could get angry, he saw my tearful face. His anger inexplicably faltered. After a moment, he mocked me. Is there anything the Cooper heiress is afraid of? What are you scared of? Not far away, people were whispering and staring at us. Some boys' covetous gazes discreetly swept over my slender, pale legs. Before Asher arrived, I had already been pestered by these boys for quite a while. They had eagerly offered to help me with my luggage several times. I refused them all, and now they were looking at me glumly. Asher frowned. He was clever and quickly guessed what had happened. He slightly shifted his body to block me from view and said coldly, Lydia, I'll let you off this time, but if you lay a hand on me again, you might lose that hand. In the original plot, upon hearing Asher say this, I would become even more furious. I would throw a wad of cash at him, call him lowly, and then haughtily order him to carry my luggage. But now, the system's tone was exasperated. Throw it already. You're supposed to be the vicious supporting character. He's provoking you like this, and you're not even angry. I tremblingly took out some money, but before I could throw it, Asher's glare scared me so much that I dropped it all over the ground. But system, What if he really breaks my hand? He's so fierce. I whimpered. Fear still dominated, and I ignored the system's urging in my mind. To save my hand, I racked my brain to follow the plot. My family gave your father a job. Is this how you repay us? They've been bothering me, but I only wanted you to help with my luggage. I was so scared without you here. The system let out a sharp alarm in my head. What the hell are you saying? Why do you sound so pitiful? I was already crying, and being short in stature. Standing in front of the tall Asher, speaking in such a choked voice, I somehow appeared extremely pitiful. Asher looked down at me, suddenly shoving some tissues at me impatiently. Without waiting for me to speak, he grabbed my suitcase and headed towards the dormitory. I was stunned for a moment, then touched my face, realizing he wanted me to wipe my tears. So, will you be late again? If you're late again, I'll. Pressured by the system, I still managed to grit out the original line. I'll slap you again. After saying it, I shrank my neck, afraid Asher would turn around and hit me. But I guessed wrong. Asher didn't even pause. After a while, he finally replied, his tone indecipherable. Understood. That evening, I proudly boasted to the system about my accomplishments. See? Even though I changed a few lines, I still completed the plot. Slapping the male lead and making him carry the luggage, I'm such a genius. For some reason, the system had been silent since I returned. It finally spoke up, with a sarcastic tone. Indeed, the male lead was so mistreated by you that his neck and ears turned red. Even I, slow as I might be, could detect the mockery in the system's voice. Turning over in bed, flushed with embarrassment and anger, I retorted. Whatever, as long as I completed the task. If you're so disapproving, why don't you do it yourself instead of constantly criticizing me? The system gritted its teeth. If I could, I'd hang you up and give you a thrashing first. I've done so many tasks, but I've never seen someone as pathetic as you. Are you planning to bully the male lead to death with your tears? The system and I both huffed simultaneously, thoroughly annoyed with each other. We turned away, refusing to acknowledge one another. The next morning, I called for the system. But all I got was a cold automated reply. I'm upgrading now, wake up time uncertain. You carry on with the tasks yourself. If I come back and you're still this useless, you're done for. At the end of the message was a threatening knife emoji. I shuddered, cursing the system for immorally abandoning me. Grumbling, I shouldered my backpack and headed to class. The next plot point came quickly. As a pampered young lady, I've always considered school cleaning duties beneath me. Usually, I'd pay other students to do it for me. But now, taking advantage of the fact that Asher's father used to be the Cooper's chauffeur, I fully exposed my malicious nature. This time, the plot required me to force the male lead to help with my cleaning duties. Looking at Asher's strong arms, I said, "From now on, you'll have to help me with all my cleaning duties." Asher scoffed, "And why would I do that?" I swallowed hard. "Well, you're the tallest and strongest in the class, aren't you?" I took Asher's hand, comparing it to mine. "Your hand is so big, look how much bigger it is than mine." The moment I touched Asher, his body tensed, veins popping on his arm. But I didn't notice, still admiringly stroking his forearm muscles. "I'm not like that at all, I'm weak and can't do much work. And I don't know how to clean properly." "Not like you, you're so capable. Remember how easily you helped me move my luggage last time? Asher, you know I can't manage without you, I just want your help." I waited for a while, but Asher didn't respond. Anxiously, I looked up, wondering if I'd gone too far. It's one thing to ask once or twice, but how could I expect Asher to do all my duties? But that's what the plot demanded, and I didn't want to bully him. To my surprise, when I looked up, I saw the usually fierce Asher looking a bit dazed. Noticing my gaze, he quickly resumed his usual impatient expression. Spoiled brat. He insulted me, yet he actually took the duty roster. He crossed out my name completely and replaced it with his own. As a vicious supporting character, I've been quite the bully. Making Asher Darnley do my chores is one thing. But even forcing him to get my lunch every day is another level of cruelty. Not only do I coerce him, but I also complain about the food he brings back. In the original plot, when faced with the lunch Asher brought, my lines were, "You're so slow, the food's gone cold. And you've only picked things I don't like. How pathetic, just like your father. Always looking for handouts, only doing a good job when there's money involved." But now, as I look at the tray before me, I remember the truth. In the original story, Lydia made Asher get her lunch but didn't give him her meal card. So Asher had to get food from the counter he usually uses. The meal isn't bad actually, £8 for a main and 2 sides. It's from the subsidized menu for students on financial aid. But to Lydia, who's used to finer things, it would indeed be hard to stomach. Wow, you're so thoughtful. You even remembered I love celery, I say. I'm genuinely hungry, so I start eating right away, praising between bites. This yogurt is delicious. I heard from my desk mate that you have to queue for ages to get it. Asher, you're so kind. You know I'm not very good at taking care of myself. I look up at this future brooding anti-hero through my lashes. Though he's tall and well-built, he's still just an 18-year-old boy. His father was fired from the Cooper household for theft, which is why Lydia despises him. Later, after an accident, his parents passed away. Asher was left alone to care for his gravely ill grandmother. He works 3 jobs a day, and every penny is hard-earned. Feeling a pang of sympathy, I hand him my meal card and say softly, "We can share this card. You'll keep getting my lunch for me, right? I enjoy eating with you. You'll always take care of me, won't you?" The plot restricts me from doing much more. But small gestures like sharing the meal card shouldn't cause any issues. At least it could ease Asher's daily food expenses. Asher pauses mid-bite and looks up at me. Is this how you get everyone to do things for you? I'm taken aback. What does he mean by like this? Asher's gaze flickers to my rosy lips before naturally moving away. Sweet-talking everyone with your honeyed words. Do you think I'll fall for your charms like everyone else does? Asher said a bunch of nonsensical things. But from that day on, he really did help me with lunch duty every day. Besides these, I still had many plot points to go through. For instance, tearing up the male lead's homework and cutting up his backpack. But I was a coward. After tearing it up, the next day I secretly stuffed a new notebook and backpack into his desk. When discovered, I weakly retorted, "I have the same backpack. Please, can't we just have matching ones? I want you to use the notebook I gave you. Your handwriting is so nice, only a beautiful notebook would do it justice." Another example was when I had to lock the male lead in the equipment room overnight in winter. I gritted my teeth, went all in, and locked myself in there with him. I don't know what happened, looks like we might be stuck here all night. At least I'm with you. You're my favorite person in the whole school. For some reason, I feel safe when I'm with you. Being locked in isn't scary at all. In the cold, cramped equipment room, I sat on a mat, wrapped in Asher's coat. Asher's lips were stiff as he listened to my intermittent mumbling. I secretly watched his expression, thinking surely he wouldn't realize I was behind this. Oh, the things I do to save my own skin. It's really tough. Are you cold? Do you want your coat back? Asher glanced at me. Shut up. I'm not cold. Are you hungry? Now that he mentioned it, I did feel hungry. I nodded. Asher then took out a bar of chocolate from his pocket. It was too cold to reach out. So I just tilted my head back, waiting for Asher to feed me. Asher paused, then knelt in front of me, fed me the chocolate, and then took out his thermos to give me some water. I felt guilty inside. This was still because of my malicious schemes. Forcing Asher to carry snacks and a thermos with him every day, just to deal with my occasional whims and unreasonable demands. At night, I don't know how, but I drowsily fell asleep in Asher's arms. When I woke up, I was completely bewildered, feeling increasingly guilty. Once again, I had bullied the male lead, using him as a human heater. After I woke up, Asher opened his eyes too. I hurriedly crawled out of his arms. In my panic, I accidentally touched something hard. I heard Asher groan, and I was startled. Confused, I asked, "What's this?" A thermos? But why was this thermos so warm? I'm sorry, Asher suddenly apologized. Realizing what had happened, I instantly felt embarrassed. Neither of us spoke. I lowered my head, my face flushing red with shame. A security guard came by on his rounds and let us out. I forced myself to forget what had just happened and continued with the script. Don't think giving me your jacket last night was enough. You still have to keep groveling to please me. Asher handed me his jacket. He would surely catch a cold. I still had to say these harsh lines. Feeling guilty, I quietly added, "Of course, I'll be good to you too. You know I trust you the most in the whole school." Asher's Adam's apple bobbed as he looked down at me. His usually fierce expression now seemed strangely docile. "Yes, I know it's not enough," Asher responded, adding, "I'll always take good care of you in the future." The next day, Asher indeed had a bit of a cold. But his expression remained cold. And if I hadn't seen him taking medicine, I wouldn't have noticed at all. At this moment, the long-disappeared system finally came online. I was in tears. "Wah, you're finally back, I missed you so much." The system, usually sarcastic, heard my crying. I thought it would scold me, but after a while, it spoke with a stiff tone. "All right, don't use that act you use on the male lead on me." What's there to miss? I was still sobbing. "I just missed you so much, I called for you every night, but you never answered." A force appeared in the air, slowly wiping away my tears. The system returned to its previous annoying self, scolding me. "Stop being coy. Let me check your task completion first before I decide whether to deal with you." The plot points were listed one by one, and the system let out a surprised "Oh. You've actually completed most of it." But as it opened the video, its face grew darker, and it turned to scold me. "Are you mad? Why did you talk so much with the male lead? Just slap him, just hit him. Who's like you, talking all mushy? One might think you're on a dating show." The irritable system was back in full force. I shrank like a quail, unable to help but complain a bit. "But I completed all the tasks, why are you speaking so harshly?" The system let out a cold laugh that made my scalp tingle. Just then, Asher walked over. He directly picked up my bag, intending to walk me home. I thought that since the plot was basically over, I didn't need to maintain the villainous persona anymore. Taking back my bag, I said quietly, "You don't need to walk me home, I can go back by myself." Asher turned to look at me. "What now, throwing another tantrum?" I pursed my lips. I could always go by myself. "Thanks for before though." Asher looked at me for a long time, then sneered, "Good, I don't want to anyway." With that, he turned and left. I let out a breath, nodding in agreement. Indeed, who would want to carry someone else's bag every day, if not for my coercion? Only the system suddenly laughed coldly, cursing. Pretentious. Though it wasn't clear who it was cursing at. After the second lesson ended, my desk mate noticed my water bottle was empty and offered to refill it for me. I handed it to him just as Asher was walking by. His gaze swept over my water bottle, and he froze. Usually, he would come at this time every day to refill my water and help me with some questions. But now, my desk mate had taken my bottle, and the person in front of me was explaining a problem to me. Asher didn't say anything and walked away silently. We had a PE lesson in the afternoon on the sports field. Asher came over carrying his jacket, just in time to see me sheltering under someone else's umbrella. In the afternoon sun, I had always forced Asher to hold his jacket up to shade me. Even though using an umbrella would have been easier, I insisted on this tiring method. But now it wasn't necessary. I waved my hand dismissively. "You don't need to come over anymore. I'll just share an umbrella with my desk mate." Since I didn't need to follow the script anymore, I naturally stopped bullying Asher into getting my lunch. My desk mate volunteered to bring me food instead. Feeling a bit guilty, I started giving him some snacks every day. I also took over the cleaning duty. My desk mate knew I was generous. We agreed on a price, and he happily helped me with the cleaning. Now that I wasn't following the script, I didn't feel right bossing Asher around. All the ways I used to bully him were discarded. In fact, without me deliberately picking on him, We barely spoke a few words to each other all day. I thought Asher would be happy to finally be rid of me, the vicious supporting character. But I was wrong. One afternoon, I was suddenly grabbed by the wrist and pushed against a corner. Asher's face was dark with anger. He looked at me and suddenly asked, "What are you playing at?" I was a bit stunned. Asher continued, "I saw it. Your desk mate got your lunch for you at noon. And he's doing your cleaning duties too. You haven't let me help you for a long time. What's this? You've started ordering your desk mate around now?" Asher's eyes were dark with fury as he gritted out, "How has he earned your favor? Is he better at serving you than me? Does he know what snacks you like, or what temperature you prefer your water? You always said I was the best at taking care of you." I was stunned by the question, stammering as I asked the system, how can anyone enjoy being ordered around?" The system replied sarcastically, "Look at what you've done. The male lead is now like an abandoned dog. You're quite something." The system's poisonous tongue wouldn't stop. "He doesn't just want to be ordered by you. Why don't you try slapping him a few times? See if he likes it?" I blushed at the system's words, interrupting, "What nonsense! How could such a thing happen?" The system let out a cold snort. At that moment, Asher was still pressing me for answers. His grip was too tight, making my wrist hurt. I couldn't help but tell him to let go. My voice seemed to wake Asher from his trance. He pursed his lips and slowly backed away. Once there was a safe distance between us, Asher's Adam's apple bobbed as he asked in a low voice, "Lydia, what am I to you?" Completely caught off guard by the question, I was stunned. But I couldn't answer this question. A task object? Or the male lead of a novel? Whether I revealed my identity or said I was forced by the system, it all seemed so flimsy. After a long while, I managed to squeeze out a few words. "A classmate, what else could it be?" But Asher interrupted me, saying, "I thought we were dating. Fetching lunch, bringing snacks, refilling water bottles, carrying school bags, helping with cleaning duties. Aren't these things a boyfriend should do?" Asher pressed his lips together and continued, "I thought I just had a girlfriend with a bit of a temper. You're high maintenance and love to be pampered, but you're adorable. You always say you love me most and can't be without me. Sweet nothings pouring out as if they cost nothing. I thought we were in a relationship that, though unspoken, was mutually understood." Asher's finger brushed over the red marks on my wrist, his face expressionless. "I come from a small town with rather traditional views. I take relationships very seriously. Lydia, you're my first love. If I've upset you, you can punish me or get angry with me. But you can't just silently distance yourself from me, leaving me on tenterhooks every day because of your coldness." After rubbing enough, Asher finally looked up. He said softly, "It's not fair to me." I was nearly overwhelmed by the guilt in my heart. This fierce and intimidating Asher, with his body full of solid muscles, was now bowing his head to me. I suddenly found myself in control. But I had been truly awful, doing so many terrible things to Asher. The cold voice of the system rang out, "Tell him he's not worthy. Tell him not to entertain such foolish hopes. This is your final system task. Completely shatter his pride." The system fell silent for a long while, and I didn't move. "You can't use clever tricks like changing the script this time, Lydia." The system paused, its tone becoming severe. "Remember your purpose for coming to this world. Put aside your ill-timed compassion." Purpose? What was my purpose for coming here? I had died in a car accident before. The system approached me, saying if I completed the tasks, it would revive me in a new world. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to harden my heart. Pulling out a mocking smile, I said, "A relationship? Asher Darnley, you really dare to dream." I critically examined Asher's clothes. "Is everything you're wearing even worth as much as one of my hair ties? Know your place before you speak. I heard you're working at the docks. No wonder you look so poor. You used to be just a plaything, but you actually took it seriously. typical of someone from the small town, vain and delusional, a low-class person. I was certain Asher could see the contempt and disdain in my eyes. His face instantly turned pale, his lips tightening into a straight line. Only his eyes still stubbornly stared at me, maintaining a youthful pride. But I knew such pride was fragile. He had willingly exposed his weakness to me, and my words could hurt him. Your love is as worthless as the cheap clothes you're wearing. If I had known you'd be this annoying, I wouldn't have even considered you as a plaything in the first place. As soon as I finished saying these last words, the system's notification of task completion sounded simultaneously. I turned away instantly, almost fleeing in disarray. The tears I had been holding back finally fell, immediately soaking my collar. Since coming to this world, it was the first time I felt ashamed of my assigned character. Asher indeed stopped pestering me. When we happened to meet, our eyes would accidentally lock. He would always be the first to look away, walking off with an icy expression. After a few such encounters, I felt awkward and almost started avoiding him. The system informed me that this part of the plot had completely played out. In a week, it would send me 5 years into the future. By then, Asher would expose my identity as a fake heiress. All I had to do was compliantly allow myself to be thrown out of the family and die in a traffic accident on a cold winter street. This would fully complete the task in this world. I rarely engaged in a cold war with the system, but this time I did. When it said this, I coldly responded with a mere unwilling to say anything more. The system paused, then said, "Lydia, don't be petulant." I looked out the window. I'm not being petulant. I've done everything you asked. What else are you unsatisfied with? The system hesitated, then fell silent. I knew I was being unreasonable and misdirecting my anger. This was, after all, a straightforward transaction. I had no reason to harbor resentment towards the system, but I still felt a dull ache in my heart. I knew that if it wasn't me, someone else would play out this plot. This was something Asher had to experience. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I had wronged him. That afternoon, I was in a foul mood and decided to take a solitary walk around the school grounds. As I strolled, I stumbled upon a group of lads huddled in a corner of the field. I knew I ought to leave, but a familiar figure caught my eye. Asher was leaning against the wall, his gaze distant and cold, lost in thought. "Asher, mate, we've been telling you. That posh bird Lydia Cooper was never going to be serious about you," one of the boys said. "Yeah, those toffs love to play with people's feelings. They look down on us lot," another chimed in. "You'd best see her true colors and wake up, mate," a third advised, his tone a mix of schadenfreude and feigned concern. The group continued to prattle on, describing me as ill-tempered, spoilt, and arrogant. These weren't exactly flattering terms. And I was about to walk away when Asher's voice cut through the chatter, his tone icy. "So what if she is? I'm willing to let her toy with me." His words silenced the group. Seemingly oblivious to the change in atmosphere, Asher continued. "What's wrong with her being spoilt? It's not like she's having a go at you lot. If I want to be at her beck and call, what's it to you?" The others exchanged uncomfortable glances before making excuses and leaving. I was about to slip away from my hiding spot behind a tree when a figure blocked my path. Asher stood before me, looking down. The sun behind him cast his face in shadow, making his expression unreadable. "You heard it all, then. What do you think?" Asher asked, though he didn't seem to require an answer. He pressed on. "I know I'm not good enough for you right now. You can treat me like a plaything, like a dog even. I can keep carrying your bag, fetching your lunch, walking you home. You can order me about as you please. Just as long as you still acknowledge me. Give me 5 years, until I graduate from uni. I'll make something of myself, I promise. I'll become worthy of you." Asher paused, his voice softening. "Will you trust me? Please?" It was that tone again. The same one he'd used when he'd promised he wouldn't be late. And true to his word, he'd always been there at the school gates, rain or shine. He'd vowed to take care of me, and he had, down to the last detail. I barely even knew where the hot water tap was. I took a deep breath, finding it hard to meet his eyes. The system's voice chimed in, Lydia, you. I know, I cut it off. My fingertips had gone white from clenching them so tightly. I lifted my head, staring directly into Asher's eyes. Speaking slowly and coldly, I said, I don't need that. I continued, what makes you think I'd wait 5 years for someone like you? Asher, who always seemed so aloof and capable, now looked shaken, his eyes reddening at my words. He clenched his fists, then let them fall limply to his sides. Head bowed, his voice devoid of emotion, he muttered. Of course. How could someone like me ever be good enough? What kind of person? A poor, lowly commoner. It's astonishing how easy it is to extinguish the light in someone's eyes. Just a few carelessly tossed words. I knew Asher wouldn't seek me out again. He'd already crashed and burned too many times. As A-levels approached, our teacher asked us to write down our greatest desire and pin it on the wall outside the classroom. Some wrote about their aspirations to attend their dream universities. Others expressed their ambition to become the most brilliant and dazzling dancers. Only Asher wrote a single, terse word, money. The boys and girls, aged 17 and 18, all harbored a peculiar sense of pride. They spoke only of poetry and distant dreams, disdaining any association with the stench of lucre. So such a blunt statement elicited laughter from many. Only I stared at that word, somewhat lost in thought. The system said, your character design was meant to ignite the male lead's desire for money, to make him unwilling to remain at the bottom forever, thus driving him to climb upwards by any means necessary in the future. Lydia Cooper, you've completed your task admirably. I listened to the system's rare praise without comment. The system wanted to take me to skip to the last day. I couldn't resist the urge to take one last look at Asher. The evening docks were still bustling with workers. Asher silently hauled cargo, his sturdy back covered in a sheen of sweat. He was so young, just 18, an age when he should still be coddled at home. He stood out among the group of middle-aged men who had been in the workforce for years. Yet he was so proficient, as if he had been doing this job for many years. I hid behind a large tree, quietly watching Asher. I watched him work, and then I watched him leave. On his way home, Asher stopped by the chemist's. I knew this was to buy medicine for his grandmother. Asher never looked back, walking forward with a cold expression. Just then, a group of people suddenly burst out from an alley. They were wielding clubs and, without a word, charged straight at Asher. Asher was a formidable fighter, quickly knocking down the ones at the front. But there were too many of them. In an unfortunate moment, a club struck the back of Asher's knee. Asher grunted, looked up, and viciously kicked away the one who had wielded the club. But it was too late, the others swarmed him all at once. I watched as Asher was beaten until he coughed up blood. And I was desperate to intervene. But the system sternly rebuked me. No, this is the first encounter between the male lead and his first subordinate, Mary Sutton. You must not interfere. My steps halted abruptly. Asher's head was violently pressed against the ground, clubs raining down on him like hailstones. My heart clenched, and I couldn't help but lift my foot again. The system's voice was cold. This is a necessary experience for the male lead's growth. He needs to meet Mary to set the subsequent plot in motion. The male lead won't remain poor forever. He'll achieve success and hold great power in the future. I stood frozen, staring intently at the blood on Asher's forehead. At that very moment, Asher suddenly lifted his head, his gaze locking onto mine. He saw me. The system's voice rang out simultaneously. Its tone had never been so severe. Lydia Cooper, the male lead has his own future. You can't bear the consequences of changing the plot. Do you want him to spend his entire life hauling cargo at the docks? Don't be soft-hearted. Turn around and leave immediately. Asher and I locked eyes amidst the clamor of blood and violence. Asher was beaten almost to the point of unconsciousness. Yet his eyes remained fixed on me. He looked at me that way, but I averted my gaze. Under the intense gaze from behind, I turned away, expressionless, and quickly walked away. The system was right. After I left, Mary Sutton indeed appeared. She frantically called the police and an ambulance, sending Asher to the hospital. I sneaked into the hospital room. The person on the bed was pale, with terrifying bruises all over his body. I couldn't bear to imagine how much pain Asher must have been in. So many people, with such brutal force. I stared for a long while before shakily reaching out to gently touch Asher's cheek. Can you lower his pain sensitivity? I can exchange it for points. Please, I'm begging you. Is that all right? I didn't have much hope when I asked. But the system, usually ill-tempered, surprisingly agreed to my request this time. I watched as Asher's brow, furrowed in pain, slightly relaxed. Finally, I let out a breath, feeling as if the ache in my heart had lessened a bit too. I kept staring at Asher for a long time. Until the system impatiently urged me again to jump quickly. Use my points to cure Asher's grandmother's illness. I know you can do it. The system opened its mouth, but I interrupted. His grandmother doesn't appear much. Just let her live to keep Asher company. It won't affect the later plot, will it? The system paused, then said. I just wanted to say, if we really cure her, it will use up all your points. I said, it's fine. Use them. Those points, the system said, could be exchanged for many useful items. But I didn't care about that now. I just wanted to do something to alleviate the guilt in my heart. The system's tone was a bit cold. This is the third time I'm saying this, Lydia. Being soft-hearted isn't always a good thing. I didn't reply to the system's words. The ticking sound of spatial jump continued to urge me. I turned my head to look at Asher one last time. Goodbye, I said softly. The next time we meet will be 5 years from now. But by then, our relationship won't be like this anymore. Playing with people's hearts, cold humiliation, watching someone die without helping. Asher must hate me for all these things I've done. Just like in the book, he'll be full of revenge towards me. As soon as we meet, he'll expose my fake identity as an heiress. He'll ruin my reputation, returning all the humiliation he suffered onto me, one by one. That's how it should be. That's what I think. I was transported into the system space. Time flows differently here compared to the outside world. You can rest here for a month and jump 5 years ahead. Consider it a holiday, the system said. But I remained listless, unable to muster any enthusiasm. A week later, my mood improved slightly. The facilities here were comprehensive: snacks, fruits, even a TV and game console. Even with the most critical eye, one couldn't find fault with the amenities. However, I struggled to sleep soundly at night. Bizarre dreams would cause me to break out in a cold sweat. Upon waking, I found it difficult to recall the contents of these dreams. The system observed coldly, then suddenly said, if needed, I can remove your previous memories and start the mission from the 5-year mark. I hesitated. That won't be necessary. I smiled at the system. Keeping my memories helps maintain my persona for the mission, right? The system didn't bring it up again. At some point, I noticed a change. The typically harsh and irritable system rarely scolded or mocked me anymore. What's wrong with me scolding you? Don't you deserve it? Besides, I never said I actually disliked you. The system tossed out these words and left after hearing my question. 5 years later. I stood at the airport entrance. The driver called to say his car had broken down halfway. With no other option, I prepared to hail a taxi to the party. Just then, a clear voice called out to me, Lydia. It was John Adams, someone from my social circle and also my primary school classmate. It really is you. We haven't seen each other for years since you went abroad for university after A-levels. John said enthusiastically as he came over to greet me, casually taking hold of my suitcase. You're here for the Smith family's party too, right? What a coincidence, let's go together. I thought it would save me from having to get a taxi, so I nodded. Actually, I'm here to pick up a friend. I didn't expect to run into you, John continued as we walked. As I chatted with John, I opened the car door. The next second, I froze at the doorway. John, oblivious, urged me on, come on in. Let me introduce you, this is a friend I met at university. He's also the CEO of Darnley Group and is attending the party. His name is Miss Cooper. The unfinished introduction was interrupted. The person inside the car looked up, his gaze meeting mine as he slowly revealed a smile. Though it had only been a month since we last met, it felt as if we had truly crossed 5 autumns and springs. Asher's features had matured somewhat, the youthful awkwardness of his younger days now gone. He wore a well-fitted casual suit, his arms naturally at his sides, a watch adorning his wrist. It was the attire of a successful businessman, his dark eyes carrying a subtle hint of authority. "Oh, you two know each other?" John asked, puzzled. I shook my head. "No, we don't." How could Lydia Cooper, that arrogant young lady, possibly remember a classmate she bullied in her youth? Miss Cooper's memory seems quite poor, forgetting even a high school classmate. Asher replied unexpectedly. I looked up sharply, not understanding why Asher would respond this way. According to the plot, Asher should have also pretended not to know me. That way, it would be easier for him to reveal the past and seek revenge later. Maintaining my persona, I said. There were so many classmates in high school. How could I possibly remember everyone unimportant? Asher's smile faded slightly. Unimportant, he repeated, his tone cooling. Indeed, Miss Cooper certainly forgets those beneath her notice. John was driving. Asher and I sat in the back seat, with a wide gap between them. Asher was quiet, while John and I chatted intermittently. I gazed out the window, not daring to look in Asher's direction. I felt an inexplicable tension in the air. When we arrived, John enthusiastically helped me unload my luggage from the boot. I thanked him awkwardly, handing John a tissue to wipe his hands. Asher didn't go in first, instead coldly watching us. Miss Cooper, with such little strength, how did you manage to carry your luggage alone abroad? Asher suddenly asked, seemingly out of nowhere. I glanced at him, responding according to the system's script. During term time, seniors helped, and during holidays, friends I knew picked me up. I never had to carry it myself. Asher twisted his lips, my mistake. I forgot Miss Cooper always has people falling over themselves to help her. I frowned slightly, chatting with the system. Why does Asher sound so sarcastic now? The system snorted, how else would you expect him to react to his enemy? Seeing you make others carry your luggage naturally reminds him of the past. It's normal for him to be upset. I paused, my heart slightly stung. I lowered my head. For me, it had only been a month, but for Asher, it had truly been 5 years. I realized I hadn't adjusted my mindset properly. I had still thought this was the Asher who used to dote on me every whim. Now, we should be in a state of mutual disgust. The party had just begun, and people around me started to mingle. Having just arrived from my flight, I was feeling a bit peckish, so I grabbed some desserts and sat in a corner to eat. I had barely taken a few bites when suddenly, a drink spilled on top of my head. In the next second, I was drenched from the waist up. "I'm so sorry, I didn't see you." A beautiful young woman apologized frantically. I silently looked at her. Mary Sutton, an employee under Asher, and also the person who once saved his life. In the original story, this was her first time attending such a party. And due to nervousness, she had bumped into me. If it had been anyone else, it wouldn't have mattered. But unfortunately, she ran into me when I was in a foul mood. So, angry me decided to give her a hard time on the spot. I took a deep breath, maintaining my spoiled persona. "Are you blind? This outfit is very expensive. Can you even afford to replace it?" Our argument drew some attention. I held my head high, even with my hair soaked. Maintaining an arrogant demeanor, not backing down. "What's going on here?" Asher frowned as he walked over. Mary spoke softly. I accidentally tripped and spilled my drink on Miss Cooper. Asher had always been protective of his people, especially considering this was his former savior. In the original plot, he would have sided with Mary and called for my father to handle the situation. Asher was no longer the poor boy he once was, and the Cooper family now seemed beneath him. My father, constrained by social status, would only angrily reprimand me. I lowered my head, preparing for the impending scolding. But suddenly, a jacket was draped over my shoulders. It was my employee's mistake. "This hotel is under my name. I'll get you a room to change your clothes." The plot had inexplicably changed again. I stood dumbfounded as Asher pulled me by the arm, walking several steps before I reacted. "Let go, I'm not going with you." Asher turned to look at me. "Why are you throwing a tantrum?" His tone was odd, his voice lowering. "What was that look you gave me earlier? Did you think I would help her instead of you? Did you think?" I barely heard what Asher said afterwards. Focusing on following the plot was more important. Maintaining my villainous role, I turned and grabbed Mary, insisting, "Let me tell you, you must kneel and apologize before I'll forgive you." Asher looked at the hand I had shaken off, then raised his head, his face turning cold. "Your temper is still the same," he concluded, "overbearing, willful, and unreasonable." What should have been a reasonable situation had turned unreasonable because of my behavior. The people around us frowned, their gazes towards me hiding contempt. In their eyes, a lady like me bullying a small employee was a very degrading act. In the end, it was my father who rushed over, severely reprimanding me. He then dragged me over to apologize to Asher. I defiantly raised my head to glare at him, only to hear Asher say in a flat tone, "Now are you willing to come with me to change your clothes?" The clothes Asher sent fit me surprisingly well. It was my usual brand and in my favorite color. When I came out, I was surprised to see Asher hadn't left. He looked me up and down. Not bad. I wasn't sure what he meant by that. Irritated, I pushed him away. "Asher, wasn't it you who told your employee to spill drinks on me? Now you're pretending to be nice?" I was biased against Asher, so of course I assumed the worst of him. But I couldn't push him away. Instead, Asher grabbed my arm. "So now you're not pretending not to know me anymore." Asher smiled, but his eyes were cold. 5 years without seeing each other. And when you sat quietly in the car earlier, I thought you might have grown up. But you haven't changed at all, still as cold-hearted and cruel as ever. I glared at him. "What does it matter to you how I am?" Asher chuckled. "It's good you haven't changed. Otherwise, I might have gone soft and forgotten the past." His grip on my wrist tightened painfully as he spoke slowly. "Forgotten how much I despise you, forgotten how much I've hated you these past 5 years. Hated you so much that even in my dreams, I want to flay you alive." I know Asher hates me. But when he looks at me with those cold eyes, I still can't bear it. I turn my head away, feeling a stab of pain in my heart. "Don't look at me like that. You're the one being petty. I've long forgotten about what happened in high school." Asher smiles coldly, watching me awkwardly pull my wrist away. His tone is icy as he says, "Keep it up. You'd better maintain that arrogant attitude of yours." When I return to the party, I continue to sit in the corner, eating. The next part is supposed to be the most important scene for me. I'm meant to have my identity as a fake heiress exposed by the male lead in front of everyone. He's supposed to produce a DNA test and reveal the truth from over 20 years ago. That I'm the daughter of a nanny who had cancer and couldn't raise me anymore. Coincidentally, Mrs. Cooper had given birth to a baby girl at that time. The baby was ill-fated and died a few days later due to being premature. The nanny, in a moment of madness, switched me with the baby. Asher was meant to have accidentally met the nurse, who was bribed by the nanny back then, and learned the truth. I keep sitting there. But even as the party is about to end, Asher still hasn't made a move. I sneak a glance at him, confused, and catch his eye. His gaze is dark and intense, and I don't know how long he's been looking this way. He's been staring at you since you sat down. His eyes have been practically glued to you. Anyone else would think he was a statue, the system's mocking voice chimes in. I didn't realize he hated me this much, I say, my voice tinged with bitterness. Is he staring at me so intently because he's afraid I'll run away? Before he can expose my fake identity? While I'm still feeling hurt, I hear a shrill voice cry out. Lydia Cooper isn't the Cooper's real daughter. A woman dressed as a nurse bursts in, clutching some papers. She grabs Mr. Cooper's arm and shoves the papers at him. "This is the proof. You have no blood relation. Lydia is the daughter of a nanny from 20 years ago." I feel a sense of relief. Finally, this plot point has arrived. I instinctively look towards Asher, expecting to see a pleased expression. Instead, I'm surprised to see him stand up, his face dark with anger. He strides over quickly, grabbing the nurse's arm and shouting, "Where's security? How did you let this madwoman in?" The security guards rush in, and several of them grab the nurse and start dragging her out. The nurse struggles, still yelling at Mr. Cooper. "If you don't believe me, get a DNA test yourself. Lydia is a fake." The party erupts into chaos, everyone's attention drawn to this explosive news. Curious gazes and whispered conversations all turn towards me. I take a deep breath, feeling stung by the scrutiny and gossip coming at me from all sides. Strange. The nurse was supposed to be hired by the male lead to expose your fake identity. How did it turn into a Cooper family relative trying to steal shares by exposing you? The system's voice is puzzled. Oh well, your fake heiress identity has been exposed anyway. The plot point is complete. It takes a long time for the commotion to die down. I leave with Mr. and Mrs. Cooper, all of us silent. As I take one last look back, I meet Asher's eyes again. They're dark and inscrutable. I can't read the emotion in them. I look away and quietly get into the car. It didn't take long to uncover the truth. I wasn't really the Cooper's daughter. Mrs. Cooper, grief-stricken by the loss of her biological daughter, refused to see me. Mr. Cooper, furious at the nanny's actions, couldn't bring himself to be kind to me. Just like in the story, I was thrown out of the Cooper household, penniless and homeless. I crouched on the pavement and asked the system, "How long until I get into a car accident?" The system replied, "In 2 months. During this time, you'll face various hardships from those you've wronged in the past. You'll sleep under bridges, rummage through bins, go hungry and cold, until you're finally hit by a car on a winter's night." It sounded dreadful. If only I'd known, I would have eaten more dessert at yesterday's party. I squatted on the street, watching passers-by with unfocused eyes. The system added, "But there's one piece of good news. The crucial fake heiress storyline is complete. You don't need to maintain your persona too strictly now. Just as long as you die on schedule in 2 months." I mumbled and went back to counting ants on the pavement. I don't know how long I'd been there when a car suddenly pulled up in front of me. The exhaust fumes made me cough and stand up abruptly. The window rolled down, revealing Asher's cold face. He looked me up and down, taking in my pitiful state, and said mockingly, well, if it isn't Miss Cooper, looking as pathetic as a stray dog." Given our past, I'd always felt intimidated by Asher. Tugging at my clothes, I said quietly, "But I have nowhere to go, no clothes to change into, no money, not even enough for a meal." I mentally added, "That's why I look so wretched now." He seemed taken aback by my response. Asher fell silent for a moment, then turned away, saying, "Stop playing the victim. This is what you deserve for all the awful things you've done over the years." I thought he was done gloating and about to leave, but then I heard him say, "Get in." Asher brought me to a luxurious mansion. The estate was beautifully landscaped with impressive architecture. Clear evidence that Asher had indeed become successful. He threw me into a room on the 2nd floor, his face expressionless. "You'll stay here until I figure out how to make you pay," he said coldly. I couldn't quite understand his approach. If he wanted revenge, wouldn't leaving me homeless and destitute on the streets be more effective? Asher seemed to sense my confusion. He let out a bitter laugh. "What's the point in just physical suffering? A wicked woman like you needs to atone for your sins." His eyes were tinged with red as he continued, "Why should you have had such a good life all these years? Able to return and pretend not to know me without batting an eyelid, while I've been trapped in misery every day for the past 5 years? You toyed with me, humiliated me, and every sweet word you ever said to me. I'll make you take back every single one." As I listened to Asher's accusations through gritted teeth, I felt a pang of sadness in my heart. "I'm sorry," I apologized involuntarily. Asher scoffed, concealing the emotions he had just displayed. He turned to leave, his tone light and dismissive. "It's too late for that." Asher had confined me to the mansion. Every day after work, he would burst in, spouting nonsensical words. He called me vicious, demanding to know if I had also manipulated others abroad using my old tricks. He also called me cold-blooded, saying I deserved to be thrown out of my family. That someone like me didn't deserve love. One night, after drinking, he barged in and inexplicably threw a pile of cards in front of me. He accused me of being materialistic and vain, forcing me to look at his company's market value, then his bank account balance. Lydia, did you ever imagine that 5 years later, I would actually claw my way up to this position? You thought I was just a poor boy. But now I can crush your Cooper family like an ant. Do you regret it? Asher paused. If you had agreed to be with me back then, all of this could have been yours. I shook my head. That's not why I rejected you. I had hesitated before, felt guilty about my cruel persona. I had imagined countless ways to handle the plot more gently. Just like before, I could have used some clever tricks, changed some lines. But the system's cold words extinguished my thoughts. It told me I had to do it this way. And if I resisted, the system would take control of my body. Those cold, humiliating words would still be said, exactly as scripted. Things were different then and now. We couldn't be together. Asher opened his eyes, his drunken state seemingly vanished in an instant. He stared at me for a long time, then sneered. Now? Lydia, you're not foolish enough to think I still have feelings for you, are you? I'd sooner give these cards to a stray dog than let you touch them. Asher slammed the door as he left and didn't come to see me for 3 days. After being confined for 2 weeks, I was starting to feel rather uncomfortable. When I tentatively mentioned going out to Asher, his grim expression quickly scared me into silence. What's the matter? Feeling humiliated by being locked up? Throwing another one of your princess tantrums? You brought this on yourself, he sneered. I had no idea how he'd come to that conclusion. To be honest, apart from Asher's constant sarcastic jibes that were getting under my skin, I was living quite comfortably here. The mansion was spacious, well-heated and cozy. The food was excellent too. I was just feeling a bit stifled from not being able to go outside. I chose a time when Asher was away on business, and had the system take me out for some fresh air. Once outside, I realized with embarrassment that I didn't have any money on me. With no other choice, I wandered to a nearby park and joined some retired ladies doing their morning exercises. Feeling tired afterwards, I went into a library to rest and ended up falling asleep. I was woken by a staff member. It was dark outside and they were closing. By the time I got back to the mansion complex, I realized with dismay that I was lost. I had no idea which building I lived in, let alone the flat number. After searching fruitlessly, I ended up crouching in the doorway of the local corner shop. The shopkeeper was very kind, and contacted the property management to ask in the residents group chat. I stared longingly at the hot food counter, but was too embarrassed to ask for anything without money. So I just huddled in the corner and zoned out. Half an hour later, Asher stormed in with a thunderous expression. When he saw me, his furrowed brow relaxed slightly, but then his face darkened even more. He yanked me outside, though I managed to call out a goodbye to the shopkeeper. Asher didn't say a word the whole drive home. The atmosphere in the car was extremely tense. I snuck glances at him. Perhaps it was a woman's intuition, but I sensed Asher was in an extremely foul mood. And didn't dare open my mouth, just sat there quietly. When we got home, Asher dragged me straight up to the 3rd floor. He shoved me roughly into a room, his tone icy. Since you're so disobedient, you can just stay in here. I looked around the room. My whole body froze in place. I had been living here for so long, yet I had no idea the 3rd floor room was like this. The walls were covered with numerous items, densely hung. Chains, restraints, handcuffs. Each piece of equipment gleamed with a cold light, chilling to the bone. Even more terrifying was the center of the room. Where a bed should have been, there was an enormous cage instead. The cage was lined with carpets and fluffy blankets. But the cage door was wrapped with a thick chain, looking cold and unyielding. You didn't behave. If you had been good, I wouldn't have to do this, Asher said, approaching with a pair of handcuffs, his gaze oppressive. Running away? Disappearing for a whole day while I was gone. I drove 4 hours straight home when I got the news. Do you know what I was thinking on the way? Asher smiled, but I instinctively stepped back when I saw his expression. Someone like you, cunning, devious, and heartless. Only by locking you up tight with handcuffs will you behave a bit. Will you stop making me angry? I was frightened by Asher's cold demeanor. Everything in this room terrified me. I couldn't help but back away, accidentally falling to the ground. I had no doubt about the seriousness in Asher's words. He truly intended to lock me in the cage and put handcuffs on me. And then what? Would he whip me, torture me, start truly taking revenge on me? I panicked and kept calling out to the system. What should I do? I'd rather freeze to death in 2 months than be beaten to death now. The system glanced at Asher, its tone a bit strange. I don't think he'll beat you. As for punishment, besides whipping, he might want to. The system didn't finish, but I was already trembling in fear. Don't say it, system. Tell me what to do, please, I really don't want to be handcuffed. The system's tone was flat, try acting coy with him. Is it that simple? I couldn't quite believe it. The system was silent for a moment, then said, if that doesn't work, cry a bit and shed some tears. I thought the system's suggestion was a bit ridiculous. But at this point, I had no other options. So I decided to go all in. Why are you being so fierce? Isn't it because you came back too late? I lifted my face and stretched out my arms for Asher to see. I'm so hungry, I didn't even have lunch. It's so cold outside, and I just fell. My arms hurt too. I cried and wailed, tears falling freely. You don't care about me at all. As soon as you come back, you're angry with me and saying all these bizarre things to scare me. From the moment he saw my tears, Asher froze in place. He listened to my complaints and accusations, his hand holding the handcuffs trembling involuntarily. I got up and tugged at the hem of his shirt. I walked a lot today, my legs are tired too, and now I'm very hungry. I waited for you at the convenience store for a long time before you came. Will you carry me to get some food now? The room was quiet, with only the sound of the cold wind blowing outside. Asher picked me up, and after a while, I heard his stiff reply, all right. Asher is an excellent cook, and his food suits my taste perfectly. He carried me and placed me by the dining table. He wiped my hands, ladled soup, peeled prawns, and refilled my plate. Throughout the entire meal, he didn't mention anything about confining me. I returned to the room on the second floor and collapsed on the bed, exhausted. System, Asher is truly a good person, I said. The system, upon hearing my words, nearly fumed with anger. Him? You're calling a gloomy and cold male lead from a male-oriented novel a good person? If he were good, how could he have built such a large company by any means necessary? But I genuinely believe Asher is a good person. Whether it was Asher from high school or the Asher now. It seems that no matter how harsh his words are, he hasn't actually done anything to harm me. If he were truly cruel to me, if he bullied or hurt me, I wouldn't feel so guilty about carrying out my mission. Thinking about Asher's hate-filled eyes, I felt sad again. I had prepared myself to be hated by him. But I still can't bear his icy gaze. Lydia, you're the most unmission-like mission executor I've ever seen. The system's cold voice echoed in my mind. You always overthink things. Bullying the male lead is an inevitable part of the plot. If it wasn't you, it would be Mary or Jane doing it. Or I would even control your body to do it. You don't need to blame yourself for everything. Who do you think you are, Mother Teresa or the Messiah? I was scolded harshly by the system. Rationally, I know the system is right, but I can't feel at ease. Sometimes I even have absurd thoughts. My chance at revival came at the cost of Asher's pain from being bullied. This thought really troubles me. So, in these last 2 months, I want to try my best to be kind to Asher, to make up for my past mistakes. After I knocked over the plate yet again, Asher grabbed my arm in exasperation. I'm just trying to help with dinner, nothing more, I said. I stood there awkwardly as Asher frowned at me. Can you even tell the difference between onions, garlic, and ginger? Are your hands soft enough to hold a knife? What can you possibly do? Asher shooed me out of the kitchen, muttering under his breath as he bustled about making dinner. You're amazing, Asher. You seem to be good at everything, I said admiringly. Whether it was studying or cooking, Asher seemed to have a natural talent for it all. You know, I'm not very clever, so I really look up to people like you. It feels so safe being with you, like I don't have to worry about anything. Shut up! Asher snapped, clearly at his wit's end. If you're bored, go to the living room and eat some fruit. I just cut some up. Just stop talking and bothering me. I didn't know how I'd managed to annoy Asher again. His ears had turned red with frustration. Feeling dejected, I mumbled an okay and went to eat the fruit. I saw Mary again when she came to deliver some documents to Asher. She hesitated for a moment, then apologized once more for accidentally spilling her drink on me the other day. I quickly waved it off, blushing as I remembered how unreasonable I had been at the time. She asked about my relationship with Asher. I felt a bit dejected. Enemies, I suppose. Mary's expression turned peculiar. Are we thinking of the same kind of enemies? She glanced towards Asher, who was in the kitchen cutting fruit for me. Don't tell me you're together. And he does all the cooking, housework, cleaning, and even laundry? I nodded, feeling somewhat embarrassed. It seemed Asher was truly difficult to please. When I tried to help him cook, he'd chase me out, calling me a nuisance. If I attempted to clean, he'd snatch the tools away with a scowl. Even when I offered to do laundry, he'd criticize my clumsiness and take over himself. I suppose he thinks I'm too incompetent, I sighed. Mary, surprisingly, tried to comfort me, noticing my gloom. She even produced a small gift, as if by magic, an adorable turtle keychain. As I looked at Mary, I felt an inexplicable ache in my heart. Mary was truly beautiful and accomplished. She had saved Asher's life, and since joining his company, had proven exceptionally capable. In comparison, no wonder Asher only had impatience and harsh words for me. I wish I could be as brilliant as you, smart and hardworking. You're the kind of person I aspire to be. If only we had met earlier. We might have become great friends, chatting and taking walks together. It sounds so lovely just thinking about it. But that wasn't possible now. After what I'd done, Asher hated me. And Mary, being on his side, surely wouldn't like me either. Mary seemed taken aback by my words. Before she left, her expression was hard to describe. She looked at me and sincerely remarked, I think I understand why Asher has been unable to forget you all these years. I couldn't stop fiddling with the turtle charm. When Asher called me for dinner, I didn't even hear him. He walked over, picked it up, and examined it. From Mary? I nodded, yes, she's so kind. I wish I had met her earlier. Asher smiled slightly, well, that's because you left back then. If you had waited a bit longer, you would have met Mary. His words trailed off abruptly, and the atmosphere grew tense. We both knew what back then referred to. It was when Asher was beaten bloody, and I didn't help him. After a moment, Asher said in a flat tone, put it down and come eat. Since our reunion, Asher had brought up all my past actions to mock and interrogate me. But this incident was the only one he seemed to have forgotten, never mentioning it. We both tacitly avoided the subject, as if bringing it up would shatter our current facade of calm. After dinner, I called out to Asher as he was leaving. I hesitated for a long time before saying softly, I'm sorry. Asher turned to look at me as I continued. I don't think I've ever properly apologized to you. But in high school, I wasn't lying. I really thought you were great and very caring. You were the person I trusted most at school. I stood up straight and bowed deeply, speaking earnestly. I've said many hurtful things, but they weren't my true feelings. I never thought of you that way. I'm sorry. Asher looked at me for a long time. I couldn't read his expression. I only heard him say in a flat tone, why are you saying this now? In high school, I had nothing but my heart for you to toy with. And now? What are you trying to con me out of? Money? Or company shares? Lydia, I've had enough of your sweet talk. I won't be fooled by you a second time. I called out to Asher as he was leaving, do you still hate me now? Asher didn't stop walking. After a long while, I heard a faint word. Yes. My apology seemed to have no effect. The relationship that had somewhat eased became tense again. I tried hard to please Asher. But he refused to see me, often staying away from home for days. Finally, one day, I cornered him at the doorway. Asher's expression was cold. "What is it?" I was a bit intimidated by his icy tone, but still mustered up the courage. "Can I go out this afternoon?" I glanced at him furtively, then tentatively made a request. "Would you come with me?" "Please, I'm begging you." Asher went to start the car with a frosty face. On the bustling pedestrian street in the city center, Asher and I walked one after the other, slightly apart. The system's voice sounded. "A car is about to lose control and crash into you. I'll turn off your pain receptors. Once the male lead sees your body, your task will be complete." Seeing my silent demeanor, the system's tone softened unusually. "Afterwards, I'll give you a new identity. You won't have to be involved in the male lead storyline. You can live freely in this world." I mumbled and let out a deep breath. Looking at Asher's cold face beside me, I tugged at him. "I fancy a cup of milky tea." "Go buy me one, hot please." "You think you're still Miss Cooper, ordering me about?" he retorted. I stared at Asher, then averted my gaze. "Never mind then, I don't want it anymore." Asher pulled at the hem of his shirt and walked off with a scowl to queue at the nearby cafe. "Good, the male lead's been sent away." "In 1 minute, Lydia, be ready," the system warned. Not many people would have an experience like mine, I thought. The experience of waiting for death. The idea made me want to laugh, oddly enough. I closed my eyes, hearing the approaching sound of a car horn blaring out of control and people screaming. In my final moments, I thought, at least Asher still hates me. If he had truly softened towards me, perhaps my death wouldn't make him so happy. Just as the car was about to hit me, a tremendous force yanked me away. I was thrown to the ground, with someone shielding me, letting out a pained groan. I opened my eyes in shock to find it was Asher who had pulled me away. He looked at me, fear and complex emotions flashing through his eyes. Finally, he muttered, "You idiot." I was protected and only suffered some scratches. But Asher was much worse off. In his attempt to pull me away, his left arm was hit by the car, resulting in an immediate fracture. At the hospital, the doctor was putting a cast on Asher's arm. I stared blankly, not moving my gaze even after everyone else had left. "Scared?" he asked. I countered, "Aren't you?" Asher fell silent and looked away. "Yes." I was surprised. "You actually get scared too?" When Asher had lunged to save me earlier, he'd even had the presence of mind to scold me. While the doctor was treating his wounds, he hadn't even flinched. For someone as proud as him to admit he was afraid was unexpected. "If I hadn't been by your side, if I'd been a moment later." Asher trailed off, lowering his eyes to look at me, his voice soft. "Why would you think I wouldn't be afraid?" My heart suddenly raced, and I couldn't bring myself to meet Asher's eyes. I fidgeted with my fingers, my voice barely a whisper. "I thought you hated me." "Hate? How could I not? What exactly do you think I hate? That you treated me like a dog in high school, ordering me around? Or that you played with my feelings, that you humiliated me for being poor and lowly?" Asher leaned in slowly, forcing me to look into his eyes. "Or perhaps that you were so cold-hearted. You, who used to feel sorry even for stray cats and dogs, could leave me to die without a second thought." Asher ripped open this bloody wound, forcing it into the open. "I thought you were just scared. There were so many people, and you've always been timid. You shouldn't have come to save me. But I never imagined you wouldn't even deign to call for an ambulance for me. When I woke up after being rescued, I was prepared to comfort you, thinking you must have been terrified. But the police told me it wasn't you who called them. Even strangers reached out to help me. But you could just walk away without a shred of concern." I felt a crushing pain in my chest, suddenly transported back to that evening. Asher seemed to no longer care about the pride and dignity he'd once clung to so desperately. Just like back in high school, he stared at me intently. Back then, his voice had been firm, his young frame as straight as a pine tree, stubbornly asking for a 5-year promise. Now, his voice was much softer, only daring to ask, About leaving back then, have you regretted it at all these years? Even a little? I lowered my head, only to realize tears had already flooded the floor. I have regretted it. I choked out, how could I not regret it? In the dead of night, I'd wake up in a cold sweat, haunted by the image of all that blood. And Asher had been completely trapped in that moment 5 years ago. All those past events. I had refused to date him because I thought he was poor, because he had no money. He only felt he wasn't good enough, that he truly didn't deserve me. I had made the right choice, weighing the pros and cons and considering practical factors. But when I turned away coldly, I completely shattered Asher's psychological defenses. He didn't want to believe I truly felt nothing for him. My leaving him to die was like a sharp thorn, deeply embedded in Asher's heart. He had resented my coldness for many years. That's enough. Asher gently wiped away my tears, suddenly smiling. It was a different smile from before, light, like a cloud passing by. It's enough, he said. Mary noticed the awkward atmosphere between Asher and me while at the hospital. When our fingers accidentally touched while pouring water, both quickly pulled away. Whenever our eyes met, either my cheeks flushed or Asher's ears turned red. Would you like some apple? I can cut it for you, I stammered. Asher took the fruit knife, avoiding my gaze. I'll do it. I'll cut some pear for you too. The weather's been quite dry lately. Mary watched as Asher struggled to peel the fruit with his plastered hand. I, my cheeks pink, handed him a napkin. Neither looked at the other, turning away with silly grins on our faces. After observing for a while, Mary couldn't hold back anymore. What are you two doing? Playing some sort of love game? The strange atmosphere was shattered. I stood up awkwardly, while Asher reverted to his usual expressionless demeanor. Is there something you need? Mary handed him some documents. With Asher away, Mary had been shouldering the company's responsibilities, working several all-nighters in a row. You can't keep overworking me like this. I'm getting married next month and haven't even chosen my wedding dress yet. Mary complained, then turned to me with a smile. Lydia, would you like to come to my wedding next month? Surprised and delighted by the invitation, I began, of course, I'll. The system's voice interrupted at that moment. Have you forgotten your mission? I've been quiet these past few days, and you've been acting like a fool, playing this silly love game? I froze, feeling as if a bucket of cold water had been dumped over me. Lydia? Mary's puzzled voice came through. I forced a smile, my lips stiff. If I have time, I'll definitely come. As he was discharged from the hospital, Asher's face was tense, looking rather unapproachable. His hand, however, slowly reached out and gently touched mine. With flushed cheeks, I allowed Asher to intertwine our fingers as we walked out of the hospital. The system berated me, are you mad? You're about to die, and you're still here flirting with the male lead. I responded optimistically. Won't you give me a new identity? I can just come back to find Asher after I complete the mission. The system was nearly driven to collapse by my words. Easy for you to say. Aren't you afraid Asher won't believe you and have you exorcised like some ghost? If I could manifest physically, I wouldn't need a car crash. I'd stand up and strangle you myself. After hearing this from the system, I realized I might have been too presumptuous. What if I caused Asher to get hurt again? He didn't know I was on a mission. So that evening, I tentatively asked Asher, what if, and I mean if, I were to get into another car accident in front of you? Asher tensed up, his voice cold, then I definitely wouldn't save you. I let out a sigh of relief, but then heard Asher continue. I'd go down with the person who hit you, and then deal with you in the afterlife. I instantly got goosebumps. System, can't I die quietly without the male lead seeing? The system mercilessly rejected my request. No, it must follow the plot with the male lead witnessing it. And Lydia, I'm warning you, tomorrow is the deadline. You must complete the mission. I tossed and turned all night. I didn't know how to explain this to Asher. I couldn't tell him about the system, nor could I explain my task. What kind of task would require me to die in front of him? It wasn't until midnight that I finally dozed off. When I woke up, I met Asher's gaze. I didn't know how long he had been watching me. His eyes were dark and intense, and I couldn't help but shiver. But soon, he returned to his usual demeanor. He helped me wash my face and watched me eat breakfast. With so much on my mind, I barely ate anything. Asher frowned slightly, subtly averting his gaze. What's wrong? Are you feeling down? Or is the food not to your liking? After hesitating for a long while, I finally mustered the courage to grab his wrist. Asher, what if something unexpected were to happen to me? For some reason, looking at Asher, I couldn't bring myself to say the word die, so I vaguely used unexpected instead. Don't worry, and don't be afraid. Trust me, I'll be back soon, you'll definitely see me again. I'm not sure which of my words triggered Asher. The smile on his face suddenly faded. Unexpected? What do you mean by unexpected? I won't see you? Are you planning to run away? Or have you been lying to me all along? Asher's expression darkened. Do you not want to be in a relationship with me at all? Were your words in the hospital all lies? Are you trying to deceive me again with sweet talk? Asher was so aggressive that I felt extremely uncomfortable. No, that's not it. I haven't lied to you. I hugged Asher reassuringly, my tone softening. I told you, I can't live without you. Only you can take care of me properly, right? The cold air that had surrounded Asher earlier dissipated somewhat under my soothing words. That's right, no one can look after you better than I can. It's always been that way, and it always will be. Asher emphasized to me, no one will ever do it better than me. For some inexplicable reason, I blushed again. Why do you always say things like that? It's as if I'm the one bullying him. And whenever I hear such words, my heart seems to malfunction, always beating erratically. Asher was in a state of high alert at the moment. He was watching me very closely, with a wary eye. I had tried several times to suggest going out for a walk, but he had firmly refused each time. Unable to contain myself, I turned to the system for help. What should I do? How can I get out? The system's voice was emotionless. Kiss him on the cheek. With flushed cheeks, I did as instructed. I lifted my face and gently kissed Asher's cheek. Don't worry, I said. I just want to go for a short walk. I promise I'll come back. If you're concerned, you can watch me from the window. I'll just stroll around the garden outside our flat. We'll always be together, Asher. You can trust me. From the moment my lips touched his cheek, Asher's entire body had gone rigid. Slowly, he wrapped his arms around me, his voice muffled. All right. You're very cunning, you know. You know I can't refuse when you do that. Under normal circumstances, cars wouldn't enter the garden area of a residential complex, due to the separation of pedestrian and vehicle paths. But that didn't matter, not with the system in place. I thought about what I had just said to Asher. I had given him enough hints, surely he wouldn't do anything rash. Besides, it wouldn't be long, a few days at most, before I would appear again. I tried to reassure myself as I finally reached the spot the system had specified. Sure enough, a black car inexplicably lost control and headed straight for me. In my final moments, I marveled at how clever the system was, even arranging for a driverless car. It was for the best, really. Asher's words from last time had truly frightened me. It would have been awful if someone else had been caught up in this. With these thoughts, my consciousness faded to black. In the haze, I thought I heard someone screaming my name in anguish. His words were heart-wrenching, Lydia, you've lied to me again. But I was already beyond responding. When I woke up again, I found myself in a small town in Southern. It took me a while to recover my senses. Although the system had adjusted my pain receptors, watching a car come straight at you is definitely not a pleasant experience. What's more, it reminded me of the tragic fact that I had died in a car accident in my previous life. After I came to my senses, I quickly rummaged through my bag. The system had prepared everything quite thoroughly. There was an ID card, residence documents, a mobile phone, and even a bank card. My name was still Lydia Cooper, thankfully my original name. I turned on the phone and glanced at the time, then suddenly froze. It took me a long while to blink. Hadn't the system said I would be reborn a few days later? How come it now showed a year had passed? Had I misread it, or was the phone faulty? My heart suddenly panicked when a voice rang out. You didn't misread it. It is indeed a year later. I was startled. The system hadn't left after all. It seemed puzzled too. Strange, I should have disappeared after you completed the task, but I couldn't leave. After all impossible results were eliminated, the system's voice turned cold. There's been an error. You didn't complete the task. I was nearly driven mad by the system's calmness. What do you mean I didn't complete it? I died, and Asher saw it with his own eyes. What more do you want me to do? If all of this had been in vain, then what was the point of everything I'd done? The system was stunned into silence by my fierce questioning. After a long pause, it said, I'm sorry, but you may need to complete the task once more. Before that, please don't meet the male lead. I need to check if there's a program error. I desperately searched the internet for news about Asher. I learned that his company had grown significantly, capturing many overseas markets. I also discovered that his reputation had soared, being named the youngest outstanding young entrepreneur in the county. My gaze finally settled on a news article from 6 months ago. In the photo, Asher wore a suit and a diamond ring, staring expressionlessly at the camera. Various rumors were flying around. Some said Asher had secretly gotten engaged. Others refuted this, saying they'd never seen Asher with a female companion. So where was this fiancé? Only I stared at that diamond ring, lost in thought. I bought a ticket for the next flight to the capital. When I arrived near Asher's company, I suddenly hesitated. I rented a room at a nearby hotel, standing on tiptoes each day to peer out the window. Because of what the system had said, I didn't dare to go meet him directly. But the constant urgency in my heart left me restless. I wanted to see Asher, truly, desperately. I couldn't imagine how Asher had spent this past year. I had promised I would return to find him soon. But I had broken that promise. That soon had turned into an entire year. Every time I recalled our last moments together, my heart ached with a dull pain. Really, I just wanted to secretly catch a glimpse of him even for a moment. The opportunity came quickly. Darnley Group organized a new product launch event. I put on a hat and mask, blending into the crowd and hiding in an inconspicuous corner. Camera flashes continuously aimed at the stage as Asher coolly accepted interviews. After the questions about the new product ended, the atmosphere relaxed a bit. A new intern reporter noticed the engagement ring and jokingly asked, Mr. Darnley, we've heard you're engaged. Would it be possible to bring your fiancé to the next event? Someone nudged the reporter, quietly reminding them. Asher was known for never answering personal questions, especially those about marriage and fiancés, which were considered taboo. The reporter, realizing their mistake, tried to retract the microphone. But unexpectedly, Asher took it. Yes, I am indeed engaged. The surrounding area became noisy due to Asher's response. I looked up, and Asher seemed to glance in this direction for a moment, but quickly looked away. I heard his calm voice, perhaps at the next launch event. Right now, she's a bit cross with me. I haven't managed to make amends yet. The atmosphere at the press conference was stifling. I stepped outside, taking a deep breath of fresh air. Thinking about what Asher had said, I pursed my lips. A year is neither long nor short. Forgetting someone doesn't seem to be such a difficult task. I didn't want to return to the hotel. Following the crowd, I found myself in a park, passing by lively groups of people doing aerobics and children playing. I walked further until I reached a quieter area. Suddenly, the system spoke, run. At the same time, I heard footsteps behind me. They were urgent, heavy, and chaotic, more than one person. I didn't dare look back, just lowered my head and ran towards the park exit. In that instant, thoughts of stalkers and kidnappers flooded my mind. All sorts of terrifying news stories appeared uncontrollably in my head. The more I thought about it, the more scared I became, and the faster I ran. Just as I was about to burst into tears, I finally saw the park gates. I anxiously quickened my pace and rushed out. The park's lamps turned on promptly at 7 o'clock. Stepping out of the shadows, I finally left the park. There, I saw a tall figure standing at the entrance. The man who had been on stage earlier, cold as ice in his suit, was now wearing a long coat. He looked up as I approached. Asher pulled me into his arms with force. His hot breath on my neck made me tingle. "Caught you," he said. I finally moved into that room on the 3rd floor. To my surprise, everything was exactly the same as when I left. From the garden outside to the furnishings inside. The cage looked terrifying, but it wasn't so bad once I lay inside. It was quite spacious, lined with many fluffy blankets. Even the color was my favorite, beige. Asher seemed to have developed a skin hunger syndrome. He didn't want to be away from me for even a step. If he wasn't holding me tight, he was interlocking our fingers, refusing to let go. I could understand Asher's behavior, and it made me feel quite uneasy. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be away for so long." "No need to apologize," Asher said, burying his face in the crook of my neck, hugging me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You don't need to make any promises, nor do you need to apologize to me again." He finally raised his head, his gaze intense. "Liar, I won't believe you anymore. I'll hold on to what I want tightly by myself." My body involuntarily shuddered. After a year apart, Asher seemed to have become even more frightening. After dinner, I rattled the handcuffs on my wrist. "I don't want to wear these anymore. Can you take them off?" "I promise I won't leave." Asher acted as if he hadn't heard me and offered me some fruit instead. I sighed and said softly, "They're really uncomfortable. They're cold and heavy, and look, they've left marks on my wrist." Asher muttered 2 words, "Serves you right." I had no choice but to lean closer and tug at his arm. "You care about me the most. Surely you don't want me to be uncomfortable." Asher pressed his lips together and avoided my gaze. "Smooth talker." I persisted, giving him a quick kiss. "Please take them off. I'm begging you." "Won't you?" Asher didn't say a word and simply walked away. But the next day, the handcuffs on my wrist had vanished. In their place was a diamond ring. It was a beautiful ring, large and brilliant, with my initials engraved inside. I carefully took it off and slowly put it back on. After observing it for a long time, I thought to myself, it's indeed the same style as the one Asher wore at the press conference. Asher seemed different, yet somehow the same. I called out to the system for a long time, but it remained unresponsive, which was unusual. I felt a bit uneasy. I couldn't understand why the last task had failed. I had done everything I was supposed to do, gone through all the plot points I needed to. Yet the task still failed, and the system hadn't disappeared either. Finally, on the 3rd day, the system appeared. For some reason, its voice sounded urgent. "I've hacked the lock outside. Get out quickly. I'll explain more once you're out." I was a bit dazed, but compelled by the system. Hastily throwing on some clothes, I instinctively headed for the door. Indeed, the bedroom lock had been disabled, and I easily pulled the door open. As I had already run downstairs and was about to open the main door, a cold voice came from above. "Lydia." Asher stood on the stairs, his voice ice cold. "Are you running away?" I found myself in a dilemma. Should I listen to the system and make a dash for it? Or should I stay put, waiting for Asher to come and deal with me? After barely a second's thought, I made my decision. I turned and flung myself straight into Asher's arms. He caught me firmly. I struck first, asking, "What are you doing, speaking so harshly?" Asher's tense arms relaxed a bit. He carried me into the room, his voice still cold. "You don't want to know the consequences of trying to run again." I pretended to be calm, giving him a few light punches, acting as if I hadn't understood. Asher paused, then stroked my head. "I didn't mean to be harsh earlier." He was answering my previous question. I don't know why, but this time when I came back to life, the system would absolutely not speak whenever Asher was around. After Asher finally left for work, I whispered softly, "System, are you there? What's going on?" After my persistent calls, the system finally appeared. I've checked all the programs and found no issues. Since your return, I've observed Asher's reactions to you for a long time. If the plot is correct and your feelings are right, there's only one possibility left. The system said, word by word. At that time, Asher simply didn't believe you were dead. I was stunned by the system's words. Actually, when I made that promise to Asher, I never thought he would believe it. I just wanted to comfort him, afraid he'd be too upset. And I thought I'd be resurrected in a few days. As long as I explained everything to Asher properly, this incident might be over. But what if Asher was convinced I wasn't dead from the very beginning? Is this a normal world without any supernatural elements? What made Asher believe I wasn't really dead? It even affected the plot, making the fact that he witnessed my death invalid. The system guided me to the 3rd floor. The room was tucked away in a corner, its door firmly locked. I had never seen it open before, always assuming it was a storage closet. Under the system's control, I unlocked it. As I pushed the door open, I was instantly stunned by the scene before me. The entrance appeared small, but inside was a surprisingly spacious room. A row of wardrobes lined the wall, filled with an array of expensive and beautiful clothes. By the window stood a massive jewelry cabinet, packed with countless pieces. Necklaces, bracelets, rings, hair clips. Further in was an even larger wall. It was adorned with various exquisite designer handbags. I walked in, dazed. Not because of the room full of costly, refined clothes and jewelry, but because I realized these were all brands I had once used. Each item was in a style I frequently used and loved. There were even many limited edition pieces that were impossible to get. My keen eye noticed some were styles from previous years. Are these all things Asher bought for me over those 5 years? I wondered. I had always thought Asher hated me during that time. I believed it was my apology and vulnerability upon our reunion that earned his forgiveness. But it seemed that during those 5 years, while Asher spoke of hatred, he had been continuously buying things from brands I liked. What was this? Gifts? Because I said he wasn't good enough for me. Accused him of not being able to give me the life I wanted. So all these years, whenever he saw something I might like, he brought it back and put it here? In my days, I recalled words Asher had once said. If you're still willing to talk to me, give me 5 years. After I graduate from university, I'll make something of myself, become worthy of you. Will you believe in me? All these years, Asher had been tirelessly working and striving. Not because I had wounded his pride so deeply that it drove him to angry revenge, but simply because he wanted to be worthy of me, to give me the best life possible. I pulled open the drawer and discovered a thick stack of plane tickets inside. It turned out that during my 5 years studying abroad, Asher had bought a ticket to New York almost every month. No matter what happened, he never missed a single month. And underneath this stack of tickets was a property agreement. It stated that Mr. Darnley and Miss Cooper would share their assets at this stage. If Asher were to pass away, all his property would be inherited by Lydia. It seemed that while Asher was harshly telling me not to expect to get anything from him, he had already arranged to give me everything he owned behind my back. My nose stung with emotion. There was a sound behind me, and I turned to see Asher standing quietly behind me. Did you see everything? Asher walked over and looked at the stack of tickets. I went to your university to look for you many times, even asked your classmates. But I never saw you. You were like a symbol, existing in everyone's memory, but never appearing in reality. That's when I realized something was off. Asher led me out of the room. I sat on the sofa, and he knelt on the floor, gently stroking my hair. You're not that kind of person. In high school, you bullied me on the surface, but secretly racked your brains to give me lunch money, buy me notebooks and revision materials. You were actually helping me, weren't you? So, why did you say such cold and hurtful things in the end? Asher wiped away my tears and asked softly, Lydia, is something forcing you? My chest felt as if it had been struck hard, aching with a dull pain. Asher's words left me dizzy and confused. Asher, how could he know about the system's existence? Had he guessed, or was it? Asher pulled me into his arms, comforting me. It's all right, leave everything to me. Trust me, okay? When I woke up, I found myself in the hospital. My wrist was gently held by Asher. Seeing I was awake, he carefully helped me drink some water from a cup. What happened to me? I felt a bit lost. Asher stroked my head, nothing serious. Are you hungry? I've made some chicken soup, would you like some? I nodded and drank a bowl of chicken soup from Asher's hand. It was then that I noticed a blue flickering light nearby. I curiously glanced towards it. The light looked a bit like a firefly, tightly confined within a device. This is the system that's been forcing you to complete tasks, Asher said. His words were like a bomb, leaving me completely stunned. At that moment, the light flickered. And sure enough, the system's voice came through. Lydia. It paused, then said, I'm sorry. I didn't know whether to be more surprised that this was the system, or to be confused about why the system was suddenly apologizing to me. And how did Asher know about the system? And how had it been separated from me? A series of questions flooded my mind. Seeing my expression, Asher quickly began to massage my forehead. Don't worry, rest for now. I'll explain everything to you later. My name is Lydia Cooper, yet it isn't. I'm an orphan who, after a car accident, was bound to a system. It told me that if I played the role of the vicious female supporting character well, it would take me to a new world and give me a new identity to live on. But what if I wasn't meant to die in the first place? What if that car accident was deliberately designed by the system? Each world is like a parallel universe. So, as another version of myself from a different world, why can I enter this new world without any obstacles? And why is the system only willing to give me an identity in this world, rather than reviving my original body? Unless I was originally from this world all along. 20 years ago, the baby girl born to Mrs. Cooper wasn't actually premature and dead, but was suffocated by the nanny. The nanny's daughter took the place of the baby girl, becoming the true heiress. And I was that poor suffocated baby. 20 years later, the false heiress learned the truth and felt incredibly guilty. She wanted to atone for her mother's sins, and felt ashamed for occupying the true heiress's place. So she made a deal with this system. She exchanged her soul to give me a new life. However, something went wrong, and I was mistakenly sent to another world. In this world, the disappearance of the false heiress's soul left a vacancy for a villainous supporting character. This role was supposed to be automatically generated by the system, but for some reason, it couldn't be created. So the system thought of me. I was originally born in this world, so I wouldn't be rejected. It deliberately fabricated a car accident to bring me into the new world. Then, using resurrection as bait, it made me take on the task of the villainous supporting character. So, that woman exchanged her soul for my safety in the original world, I said softly. And your so-called system, breaking its promise, deliberately engineered my death to drag me into this world, to extract my last bit of value. Although I often argued with the system, I actually relied on it quite heavily, even considering it a friend. I felt a pang of sadness and couldn't help but cry. Asher, who had been watching me closely, immediately reached out to wipe away my tears. Don't be upset about these things. They're not worth it, he said gently. Comforted by Asher, I finally managed to compose myself. With a clearer mind, I asked the system, what exactly are you, and why are you doing this? The system remained silent for a moment, then finally revealed the truth under Asher's cold gaze. It turned out that after each book was completed, a new world would form. The protagonist would become the so-called child of destiny. Systems like this one were more like parasites, surviving by feeding on the protagonist's destiny. The more complete the storyline, the more powerful the protagonist's destiny, and the more benefits the system would gain. This was originally just a way of life. But due to some unexpected events, such as poorly ended original stories or character collapses, the worlds formed would slowly turn into ordinary worlds, with the protagonists becoming ordinary people, naturally losing their special destiny. This was the normal cycle of new replacing the old. But the system was unwilling to give up the benefits it had obtained. They chose to bind some people to perform tasks, giving them character settings. They pretended to extend the plot to maintain the protagonist's story. and continue to feed on their destiny. Some of these people accepted the task after natural death. Others, whom the system deemed suitable, would be deliberately brought over through accidents like car crashes. Isn't this just human trafficking? I asked incredulously. Due to the system's selfishness, people who should have been safe and happy were coerced into unfamiliar places to carry out tasks, completely disregarding their own wishes and the pain of their loved ones. This world would have become ordinary when Asher was in high school. But your arrival extended this world, the system said in a mechanical voice. The subsequent plot was actually designed by me. I needed the male lead to become stronger and continue the story, so I could gain more power. Not just joy, but the male lead's pain, anxiety, and insecurity are all sources of my power, it continued. The system finally added an apology. So there was actually no need for me to do those bad things. All my little tricks, the system saw through clearly. It only tolerated them because they didn't deviate from the plot it had set. My struggles and hesitations were like a joke, coldly observed by the system. My heart ached, and I suddenly felt embarrassed. But the next second, I was pulled into a warm embrace. Asher lifted my chin and said calmly, "Lydia, wake up. You didn't do anything wrong. It's these systems that are at fault." While comforting me, Asher cast a cold glance at the system. "You think you systems have done a perfect job? The cycle of new and old is a universal law that you can't interfere with." After Asher sensed that I seemed to be coerced by something, he began to observe secretly and collect information. Later, he discovered that the existence of the system would emit a special sensing wave. After that, he went to university to study various technological knowledge. After graduation, he founded a tech company specifically researching this sensing wave. And now, the experiment was successful, and the system had been completely separated from me. I finally understood why the system didn't speak when Asher was around. It had already keenly discovered something was wrong and was also secretly observing. But it was still caught by Asher, who found its weakness and separated it. "Tell me, where are your accomplices?" Asher demanded. The system remained silent in response to Asher's questioning. Asher chuckled, "No worries, I'll help you find them." Asher directly activated the machine. The system suddenly emitted a dazzling blue light. Soon, the sensing wave spread, almost reaching the remaining countless worlds. Half an hour later, a sea of blue dots appeared in the machine. Roughly counting, there were actually over 100. This parasitic race of systems had a special characteristic. As long as one didn't die, all of their lives would continue. But correspondingly, if one was caught, using the sensing wave would catch all the others in one fell swoop. As it was being completely destroyed, the system said in its mechanical voice, "Lydia, I've always said you're the softest-hearted person I've ever seen. Unlike a typical task performer. When you failed your task, I vaguely sensed something was wrong. I should have destroyed you then. But in the end, I still revived you. I don't know why." The system gave me one last look. I think I became soft-hearted too. That evening, I softly asked Asher, "When did you start liking me?" Asher looked up. "Kiss me," he said. Blushing, I gave him a quick peck. Asher's expression softened. "There's no specific time. How can one pinpoint such feelings? By the time I realized it, you had become irreplaceable to me." Asher gently caressed my fingers, then suddenly asked, "What about you? Do you like me now?" I had expected Asher to ask when I started liking him, or perhaps why I liked him. But this question caught me off guard. "If you're with me out of guilt, it's not too late to leave," Asher said, releasing my hand. He appeared nonchalant, but I knew if I truly left, that room on the 3rd floor wasn't just for show. "Do I seem like someone who would be with someone I don't like out of guilt?" I mumbled, slipping my fingers back into Asher's palm. Asher's expression remained unchanged, but I could hear his heart pounding rapidly. "If it wasn't because I liked you, it would be quite careless to let just anyone take me home," I added. I had asked myself the same question before. "Lydia, why did you so easily go home with Asher after being kicked out? You didn't want to admit it, didn't want to face it. But deep down, you felt Asher wouldn't harm you, didn't you? Just as you've said before, Asher is reliable, and you inexplicably feel safe around him. Actually, even in high school, when you were with Asher, you weren't as indifferent as you claimed, were you? Queuing to buy your favorite milky tea in freezing weather. Using £180 out of his last £200 to buy you the most expensive thermos at school. No matter how heavy the rain or snow, you were always warm and dry. Even under coercion, one couldn't care for you so meticulously, could they? Lydia, you could feel Asher's love for you, couldn't you? Even 5 years later, when he talked about getting revenge. After you were left homeless, he was the first to find you and bring you home. Before you could fall into the gutter, Asher caught you securely. That room on the 3rd floor, filled with gifts, concealed Asher's awkward and insecure teenage feelings. Asher, I looked up and said sincerely, I do like you. I was being tenderly cared for. Asher's kisses fell passionately and urgently. They landed on my brow, fingertips, collarbone. I quickly lost myself in a haze, only able to feel Asher's presence. Asher, Asher. I called his name deliriously. In response, Asher kissed me even more fervently. Lydia, I love you, he said. Asher, who had always been innocent and shy, was now intoxicated by his first taste of love. Whenever we were at home, he was almost constantly clinging to me. It was as if he wanted to make up for the past 6 years. His gaze never leaving me for a moment. Asher had fallen in love with the feeling of kissing, and would start whenever he had the chance. As we kissed, things would often spiral out of control. He canceled all his appointments at the company, completely disregarding Mary's complaints. He devoted himself entirely to staying at home. My confession of affection seemed to have opened Pandora's box. In the end, I even became afraid to make eye contact with him. As soon as our eyes met, it was as if Asher received some signal, and he would instantly move in close. My lips were nearly worn out from his kisses. Finally, after I couldn't take it anymore and slapped him, Asher calmed down a bit, at least giving me a chance to breathe. Asher and I set our wedding date for June. The weather was beautiful that day. Everyone came. It's rare for someone to have an experience like mine. First, I was cast out as a fake heiress, then welcomed back as the true one. I accepted everyone's warm and sincere blessings, my cheeks turning slightly pink. Mary also came with her husband. She smiled at me as she presented her gift. I felt a bit guilty. I'm sorry, Mary. I didn't get to attend your wedding. Mary shook her head and quietly placed my hand on her belly. It's all right. You can attend his birthday party instead. I looked up in delighted surprise, only to have my hair gently stroked. It's never too late, Lydia. If you'd like, we can start over. Lydia Cooper, I'm Mary Sutton. Would you like to be my good friend? I smiled, wiping away the tears from the corner of my eye. I'd love to. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper also came over. Mr. Cooper patted my shoulder approvingly. Mrs. Cooper tenderly handed me the bouquet. Be happy, my precious daughter. As we exchanged rings, Asher held my wrist steadily and embraced me. I will love you forever. I hugged him back, and I'll love you forever too. In this world, I came for you. And among thousands, you understand me best. Extra chapter Asher's diary. I despise all forms of trouble. Troublesome people, troublesome things. Lydia Cooper is the most troublesome girl I've ever met. The water temperature must be exactly 45 degrees Celsius to be drinkable. Desserts must be freshly made within 2 hours before breakfast. During the day, I have to attend to Miss Cooper at school. In the evening, I still need to rush to work at the restaurant. I'm truly annoyed by her. These trivial matters occupy so much of my time. My desk mate noticed my bad mood. He also loves the milky tea from that shop and volunteered to buy it for me. No need, I said. Even if Miss Cooper is picky and delicate, I don't need anyone else to share my burden. I really find it troublesome. But strangely enough, I'm unwilling to let go of these troubles. My grandmother has been bedridden for years. Every day, she listens to me talk about school to pass the time. What kind of girl is she? I closed my mouth, belatedly realizing that I've been mentioning Lydia more and more frequently. She's a young lady, delicate, willful, and domineering. Grandmother hit the nail on the head, but you don't seem to dislike her. I remained silent. After a while, I said, "She's also quite lovely." When my friend heard that Lydia and I were always together, he came over specifically to advise me. "Don't be foolish, those rich girls love to toy with us for fun." I shook my head. "She's different." My friend was puzzled. "How is she different?" I stared at the school uniform my friend was wearing. This year, the school gave us a new £2,000 grant, donated by Lydia's family. My friend's voice lowered a bit, but he still argued. "So what? They're so rich, that's nothing to them. Rich people's money doesn't fall from the sky. There are so many wealthy people in the world. But only Lydia's family is willing to donate to the school." I lowered my head and continued working, repeating once more. "She's different from others." At some point, Lydia suddenly no longer needed me. I didn't need to fetch water for her or walk her home. My desk mate celebrated that I had finally escaped her clutches. But seeing my gloomy face, he didn't dare to applaud in the end. When I saw Lydia dining with others again, I couldn't help but confront her. I had considered many possibilities. Was it something I did wrong that upset her? Or was she too busy lately and forgot to keep in touch with me? But I never expected to hear such words. Like an icy dagger formed in the winter cold. I didn't know language could have such power, so cold and sharp. Is it all you beautiful rich girls who are good at toying with people's hearts? Or is it just you who excels at it? In the evening, grandmother asked about Lydia again. I forced a smile. "We're not from the same world. Let's not mention her anymore. Sometimes I really hate how pathetic I am." I said I wouldn't pay attention to Lydia anymore, that I wouldn't notice her. But whenever she appears, my heart starts racing uncontrollably. I keep telling myself, I can't trust Lydia again. She's good at saying sweet nothings. A few words and she can have people wrapped around her finger. But I can never control myself. In the end, I always run to her like a dog. What 5-year promise? Lydia obviously didn't care about it. Is it because I'm too weak? If I could be a bit more outstanding, work a bit harder, would I be able to get even a tiny bit of Lydia's condescending gaze? That time when Lydia left me to die was the last straw. My pain, my struggle, seemed to have nothing to do with her. So 5 years later, when she asked if I hated her, of course I said I did. I hated her for leaving me to die, for being cold-blooded, for turning a blind eye. I had hated her for 5 years, for so long. It was this hatred that drove me to climb up from the bottom by any means necessary. Everyone, including her, thought I hated her to the extreme. Only I knew. No matter how much I tried to hide it, how much I tried to convince myself, I couldn't cover up my deepest true feelings. In fact, after all the hatred, what I've been hung up on all these years is just hating that she doesn't love me. Fortunately, it's all in the past now. I, Asher Darnley, a person never favored by fate, poor in youth, orphaned as an adult, relying on my 2 hands and physical strength, making a living by loading cargo at the docks. Poverty and hardship spanned almost the first half of my life. Someone like me, in the end, could actually have my wishes fulfilled, embracing the moon in my arms. The meal card given on purpose, the scholarship fund quietly established, the backpack stuffed into my desk, and the gentle caress by the hospital bed. It turns out that heaven can be kind to me too, willing to grant a dawn to my dark and muddy life. I put the diamond ring on her finger with utmost reverence. From this moment on, my world will be an eternal spring from now on.